It begins in silence, a silence so heavy it has a sound. You are a child, maybe 7, maybe 10. You are sitting in a room and you are not playing, you are watching, you are listening. Not to the television, not to the birds outside. You are listening to the spaces between words, to the subtle shift in a parent's tone, the tight line of a jaw, the sound of a sigh that carries the weight of a storm you are not supposed to know about. And in that moment, without a single word of instruction, an ancient vow is made deep within your developing mind. A vow that says, I must understand this. I must manage this. If I don't hold everything together, it will all fall apart. This is how a child disappears, not by running away, but by showing up too much. They become a ghost in their own childhood, a quiet, watchful presence whose job is to regulate the emotional temperature of a world far too big for them. They learn to predict the weather patterns of adult emotions. They learn to become small, to become agreeable, to become whatever the moment needs them to be to keep the peace. They become the family's unpaid, unseen therapist, the tiny, silent crisis manager, and the world, blind to the cost, praises them for it. You're so mature for your age. You're such a responsible child. You're an old soul. Every word of praise is a nail, sealing them inside a role they never auditioned for. But the praise is also a lie, because maturity that is forced is not a virtue, it's a wound. And responsibility that is stolen from a child is not a lesson, it's a burden. This isn't the story of a gifted child. This is the story of a curse, the observer's curse, the silent, invisible burden of the child who understood too much. And today we are going to walk deep into the heart of that curse, because the child who sees everything rarely sees themselves. The patterns you learned to survive your childhood did not disappear when you grew up. They became the blueprint for your adult life. They shape your relationships, your career, your sense of self-worth. And if you don't turn around and face the ghost you left behind, you will spend the rest of your life as a high-functioning captive, endlessly repeating the survival strategies that are now slowly, quietly suffocating you. This isn't poetry, it's neurology. When a child is forced into the role of an emotional caregiver for an adult, psychologists call this parentification. But this clinical term fails to capture the sheer violence of the act. It is the great inversion. The river that is supposed to flow from parent to child is forced to run uphill. The child who is biologically wired to receive safety and attunement is forced to provide it. This doesn't just create stress, it fundamentally rewires the developing brain. A child's brain is a work in progress. The emotional centers, like the amygdala, are fully online, feeling everything with searing intensity. But the prefrontal cortex, the center of logic, reason, and emotional regulation, is still under construction. When that child is forced to breathe the air of adult anxiety, their nervous system doesn't just go on high alert. It learns that the weight of the air itself is a threat. It becomes a permanent state of high alert. This is called hypervigilance. You aren't just a child in a room. You are a radar system constantly scanning for threats. A micro-expression, a door slammed too hard, a silence that lasts a second too long. Everything is data. Everything is a potential danger. You learn that love is not a given. It is a wage you must earn through good behavior, through silence, through being useful. You learn that your own needs, your sadness, your anger, your simple desire to play are not just inconvenient, they are dangerous. So you learn to swallow them one by one like sharp stones that settle in your gut. You become a master of self-abandonment. And in the empty space where your authentic self should be, a performance grows. The good child, the quiet achiever, the one who never causes trouble. And you play this part so well for so long that even you forget it is a mask. History and myth are filled with whispers of this curse. In ancient Greek mythology, there was the princess Cassandra of Troy. She was given the gift of prophecy by the god Apollo. She could see the future with perfect clarity, but when she rejected him, he added a curse. No one would ever believe her prophecies, so Cassandra was forced to watch her city, her family, her entire world march toward a destruction that she could see, that she screamed about, but that she was utterly powerless to prevent. She was surrounded by people, yet completely, terrifyingly alone in her knowledge. Like Cassandra, the child who understands too much is a prophet in their own home. They see the coming conflict in a parent's eyes. They understand the unspoken resentment simmering beneath the dinner table. They feel the impending collapse of a marriage in the growing silence. They see the truth, but they are a prophet with no voice. They are too small to stop it, and they are often too scared to even speak of it. So they just watch, carrying the weight of a future they cannot change, a truth no one else will acknowledge. This is the loneliness at the heart of the observer's curse, to understand everything and to be understood by no one. As you grow older, the curse evolves. The survival patterns become personality traits. The hypervigilance of the child becomes the anxiety of the adult. The self-abandonment of the child becomes the people-pleasing of the adult. The need to manage everyone's emotions becomes the inability to set boundaries as an adult. And this curse wears many faces. Perhaps you became the diplomat, a master of smoothing over conflict, losing your own voice in the process. Or maybe you became the analyst, endlessly studying people to predict their behavior, turning relationships into complex equations to be solved. Or perhaps the quiet martyr, taking on everyone's pain as your own, believing your worth was tied to how much you could endure. The role may differ, but the origin is the same. A child who learned that observing was safer than participating. You might become hyper-independent. You learn that relying on others is a liability, so you build a fortress around yourself. People admire your strength, but they don't see that it's a fortress built of fear. You never ask for help because deep down, you believe that to need something is to be a burden. You might become the eternal therapist in all your friendships. You can listen for hours, offer profound insight, and hold space for anyone's pain. Your mind is a library of other people's problems. But there is one book you never open, your own. You are a safe harbor for everyone, but you yourself are lost at sea. You might struggle with intimacy. You can attune to a partner's needs with breathtaking accuracy, but when they try to get close to you, when they offer you softness and care, it feels terrifying. Because in your world, love was never about receiving. It was about giving, managing, and performing to keep the connection from breaking. Stillness feels suspicious. Kindness without an agenda feels like a trap. You might feel a strange sense of emptiness even when life is good. You achieve a goal, you experience a moment of joy, but there's a numbness, a disconnect, because the child inside you was never taught that joy was a safe emotion. Survival was the only goal. Peace feels unearned. Rest feels like a waste of time. Your nervous system is so calibrated to chaos that stillness feels like death. You become a ghost in your own life, an observer, a narrator, but never the main character. You watch yourself from a distance, analyzing your own performance, forever wondering if you're getting it right. And the deepest tragedy is this: you may not even know you are suffering. Because when you grow up in a storm, you don't know that the sun exists. Dysfunction becomes your normal. The curse becomes your identity. But deep down, something aches. There is a silent grief for the childhood you never had, a rage for the protection you never received, a longing for the simple, unburdened joy you saw in other children. And that buried inner child did not die. They are still inside you, frozen at the age when they had to disappear, silently screaming the question you were never allowed to ask. Why didn't anyone protect me? So what is the way out? How do you break a curse that has been woven into the very fabric of your being? The answer is both brutally simple and profoundly difficult. The curse of the observer is that their powerful gift of perception was always aimed outward. The healing begins when you finally turn that gift inward. The first step is not to fix, it is to see, to witness. You must become the compassionate observer of your own story. You must look back at that small child, not with judgment, but with validation. You must say the words that no one ever said to you. I see you. I see how hard you were trying. It was not your job to hold them together. You were just a child. You deserve to be protected. The second step is to grieve. The curse forced you to bypass your own pain to manage the pain of others. Now you must allow yourself to feel it, the rage, the sorrow, the profound loneliness. This grief is not weakness. It is the sound of a frozen river finally starting to thaw. It is proof that you are coming back to life. You must mourn the innocence you sacrificed to protect people who should have been protecting you. The third step is to reclaim your needs. The child who understood too much learned that their needs were dangerous. The healing adult must learn that their needs are sacred. You must learn the simple, terrifying language of boundaries. A no that is spoken with honesty is a greater act of love than a yes that is spoken with resentment. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out. It is a line that defines where you end and another person begins, so you can finally meet each other as equals. The fourth step is to practice receiving. Your entire life has been about giving. Now, you must learn to take in a compliment, a moment of help, a gesture of love. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, even dangerous. Your nervous system will scream that it's a trick, a debt you will have to repay. Your work is to breathe through that fear and allow yourself to be nourished. This is not a quick fix. This is shadow work. It is the slow, painstaking process of returning to the abandoned parts of yourself, and instead of trying to change them, simply offering them your presence. You stop seeking parents in your partners. You stop mistaking anxiety for intuition. You stop running from the child you were, and you start integrating them into the self you are becoming. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The observer's curse is your darkness, but it is also your light. The same hyper-attunement that made you a tiny crisis manager also makes you an incredibly empathetic adult. The same deep perception that forced you to understand too much also gives you the capacity for profound wisdom. The curse was never the perception itself. The curse was that you had no choice. But now you do. The curse is not our destiny. It is our origin story. We were the children who understood too much. Now we become the adults who heal everything we see, starting with themselves. We never had a choice then, but our future is a blank page. And this time, we get to write it. We get to be the main character. We get to be free. But this journey is not meant to be taken alone. The first step in reclaiming your story is to declare it, to speak it into existence. So, in the comments below, I invite you to join this community of fellow cartographers. Let us know you are here. Start your comment with the 2 words that begin every great expedition: map drawn. Then, if you feel comfortable, share one small piece of wisdom your inner observer has taught you. By sharing, we turn this space from a viewing platform into a library of collective strength. If this is the beginning of your journey, subscribe and join the expedition. Because new maps for the mind are drawn here every week.